Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I figured with everything going on that I needed to, well, for several things, to get a break from the real world for a minute and kind of continue on with my hobby, which is I like to tinker and restore old computers, and I figured I'd finally make a video on one. And I figured I'd start with an easy one, which is this Gateway2000 that I picked up pretty recently, actually, from a gentleman here where I live. He said he hasn't turned it on in years, but when he did use it, he used it for playing a bunch of games, which is great because that's not really my intention for it, but it does mean that I can upgrade it to play some games. It's a little dirty, a little dungy. I don't know if the video can pick it up, but there's a few problems I need to address. One is, the main one is, well, dirty and dusty, needs restored. But number two is the CD drive here likes to just open and close by itself, which means it's going to need some hardware fixing, which is no big deal. There's no model number on the outside of the case, but what's kind of neat, it's not only just neat, but it's also kind of boring at the same time. Cover comes off, where there's 3 more expansion bays for 5¼ inch drives, and the model is a P5-166. And with these older mid-90s, okay, when you think of boring 90s cases, this is like the poster child for it. The dictionary.com, this is it. During this time, they really weren't creative with their naming schemes. So P5 pretty much means that it's got the 5th generation Intel processor, which is the Pentium 1. And the 166 is its clock speed, 166 megahertz. Creative. So we're going to clean it up real quick, and we're going to open the case, hopefully without tearing this little sticker, because it is the OEM factory sticker. And the other thing I need to do is remove the feet from the bottom, because heat made them move and shift a little bit, so they need removed and replaced. So let's get started with cleaning. And to clean it, I'm just going to use generic glass cleaner. The reason is because it's pretty cheap and it's pretty harmless to most, if not all, plastics. So, you know, something I like to use. And can't forget the cheapy paper towels. Actually, I'm really glad that this thing isn't too dirty. It's pretty clean for the most part, besides it just being dusty and dirty from it sitting in its basement for a few years anyway. Kind of glad it's not yellowed or discolored in any way, because I am not the best at retro brighting. I've never actually retro brighted, so I'll have to try that some other time. And here we can kind of see some of the dirt and dust. There's some in the vents here, the power supply. And it's pretty sparse. There's looks like a modem card of some kind. Whole bunch of expansion slots. And because it's on the bottom, I'm thinking this is a huge motherboard. I have not had this open yet, so I don't know what I'm going to exactly find. But I'm hoping nothing bulging or... Sorry about that. Anyway, I hope there's no corrosion or bulging caps. There shouldn't be, because that bulging cap problem was mostly very late 90s into the early mid 2000s, and on certain boards. I don't think this thing has any problems with it. But, oh, and I was wrong. There is a model number right here, P5-166, Gateway2000. So, okay, I was wrong about there not being a model number on the outside of the case, but still. The thing's actually got a lot going on it. It's got color-coded PS2 keyboard and mouse, 2 USB ports, 9-pin serial, integrated video, parallel, game port, and integrated audio. This thing's got a lot of stuff in it. Integrated on the board anyway. And this power supply is kind of weird because it's in a square pattern, or squared off pattern. Most modern ATX power supplies have that top screw offset. So I don't know. I hope this power supply is good. I'm still going to take it apart and check the caps. So let's get to tearing the covers off. For the main side, looks like it's just some thumb screws, which are really useful. Of course. Put those in that parts tray. It should. If I can do this without tearing that label, that'd be great. Hopefully I can do this without damaging anything. If I rip it, it's not a big deal, but I kind of like to keep it somewhat intact. Ooh, there we go. That's a heavy side panel. Not sure if you can tell because it's a plastic outer shell, but it's like it's screwed and attached with a big, heavy, thick metal plate. I don't know why Gateway did that. And they weren't the only ones either. I think Compact did that on one of their models too. Okay, so what do we have? We have... Let's get a closer, better look at this. Okay, here's that unusual modem card. So there's the Gateway telepath. Going to the modem connector on the motherboard. CD audio with the CD player up here. The 3.5-inch floppy drive, which I believe is just a standard 1.44 megabyte. It's got a connector, don't know if you can see it, for a standard 5.25 floppy drive. A couple extra Molex connectors attached to some zip ties, and that's upside down, but 145 watt. And it's a standard ATX power supply, it looks like. We've got a Caviar, what's that say? 33200 AT compatible, rated at 3,249 megabytes. So about 3 gigabyte hard drive. It's not terrible. Looks like we have 3 ISA expansion slots, 3 PCI slots, 2 memory slots, 1 populated. This that looks like a L2 cache slot, and the processor, which is passively cooled, which should be the, well, model numbered 166 megahertz. But yeah, there's a lot of integration on that board, and that is a huge board. I'm not sure if you can tell from the camera, but it's actually quite large. Once I get it out, I'm going to compare it to a modern micro ATX. But there's a lot of expansion and room for so much fun parts to put in here. It is really, really dusty. How much RAM is in here? It is a very dusty. Doesn't say how much, but I can look that up later. The cache module is a 256 kilobyte cache, pipeline burst. So cool. That should work out nicely. Okay, so let's start tearing this thing apart and lay it on its side after we take this other cover, top piece, and front cover, which luckily just uses standard Phillips bit, so any Phillips screwdriver, whether it be a normal one or a ratcheting one, will work. Ooh, and that's not wanting to come off very easy at all. I don't want to strip this. There we go. It would help if I would use the right size Phillips, because there are different size Phillips for different size screws. Ooh, come on. There we go. Ooh, there might be some more screws holding that in. So let's take the side panel off. I am seeing a little bit of corrosion up around the seams, but it doesn't seem like it was in water. So I kind of wonder if it was just a humid basement. Slide right off. Now this one's different. There's no metal piece, just a little support bracket right here. Not sure why Gateway did that when they made the other main side like a tank. What's on this side? Absolutely nothing. Oh, there's access screws for the CD-ROM drive and tab to get the front cover off. And pops right off. Actually pretty clean. There's some scuffs and stuff on the front I'm going to want to get off. Intel Pentium with MMX technology. That's actually a really cool looking retro badge. Like, you don't think about it, but the older these older emblems kind of had a nice retro, like, metallic charm to them. The newer ones are just, you know, holographic, like cheap looking. Oh, and I was wrong. So it's 2 extra 5 1/4 bays and 1 extra 3 1/4 drive. Well, aren't I just non-observant? Cool. Set that aside. On the top, still does not want to. Oops. Still does not want to come off. Is it snapped on? Okay. Either way, that's let's get the CD drive out, because this is going to need to be either figures first video and I'm having camera problems. Anyway, it's a little bit dusty, but hopefully I should be able to make it work. March of 1997, and it does not say what speed it is, but most of my other computers from this era have a 8 to 16 speed CD-ROM drive, so I'm just going off of that. Alright, so let's get the floppy drive out by unplugging the ID connector, undoing the front screws, undoing the side screws, and unfortunately I left my magnetic screwdriver at the shop, so I'm going to have to just suffer with dropping screws, which is not ideal. Oh, never mind. I guess this new set is magnetic. Cool. Helps me out a little bit. But I'm still wanting to catch it, so. One Panasonic 3.5-inch floppy drive. Ooh, gross. That is very gross. If it would focus. And that's not corrosion, that's just, there, I'll focus for a second. And that's not corrosion, that's just like sanding marks from manufacturing. Cool. Let's pull the hard drive, ooh, don't bend that, hard drive caddy out. Again, magnetic, yay. Undo the power, undo IDE, and why won't it come out now? Is there another screw I'm missing? No. Is there a screw up front? Yes, there is. Figures. It's a selectively magnetic screwdriver. Thinking I might have to split this up into a few different parts. This assembly, and then there we go. One hard drive. Manufactured April of 1997. So this is the original hard drive. I mean, duh, because it hasn't been opened, but let's get the IDE cables out of here. Floppy, primary, and secondary. Let's unhook the 20 pin. Flip it around. Take out the 4 power supply screws. It always helps to have I normally have a little pill organizer, but today I did not remember to grab it. That I use to keep all my screws organized. And there's another hidden screw way back here on a bracket. At least I hope it's a screw and not a rivet. Nope, it's a screw. And one very dusty, dirty power supply. Yeah, that needs cleaned up quite a bit. And I want to tear it apart and look at the capacitors. It did turn on, but again, I didn't check for stability or nothing like that. Okay, let's unhook the audio cable. Unhook the modem cable from the board because it's not want to come off from there. Unscrew this. And very gently wiggle it out. That is one. Not sure if you can see it, if the camera would focus, but it is extremely dusty and dirty. So, and it says it's on the bottom of the motherboard, so it's going into U.S. Robotics, copyright 1996. Gateway telepath 33.6. So it's just a modem card. That might not go back in, to be honest. Set that aside. Now let's unplug the front header. And luckily, it's... Ooh, you're not going to come off. There you go. Luckily, it's color coded, not really color coded, but labeled which one it is. Ooh, these are some pretty big screws. Substantial. For a substantial size motherboard. Like, this thing is just huge. I don't really know why it would be so ungodly. Like, compared to a couple of my other boards that I've got of around the same era, or same year anyway, this thing is quite a bit larger. In fact, the only board that I think that's about the same size, it's about the same size, is I have a socket 3, I believe, with no integrated audio, no integrated video. That's close to this size, but there's nothing to it. This one has a reason to have all this size to it because it's got so much integration to it. I think that's all of them. Gently. Nope, there is one more. Where? Right underneath all the items. And there we go. One Gateway2000 motherboard. It's actually not too bad. There's a little, can't tell if that's dirt or corrosion, but I'm going to pop this off when I get to cleaning this. More camera problems. Anyway, it has an integrated ATI 3D Rage 2. Anyway, it says Vibra C16C from Creative Technologies 95. So this got a built-in SoundBlaster 16 and an ATI 3D Rage 2 graphics card, which I believe that is... I believe these two are the video RAM chips. I believe. Or perhaps these two are. I'm going to look that up when I get to cleaning this. But yeah, this thing needs to be clean. Make sure the jumpers are right. New thermal compound on this passive heatsink. But there we go. One bare Gateway 2000 case. Next time, it shouldn't be too hard to clean this thing. So yeah, how do we get the top off? I think it just snaps off, but I can't exactly. Yep, there we go. There's some hidden little snaps to get this bad boy off. I don't want it to break. There we go. Now this thing's being really difficult right now all of a sudden. There we go. And oh, it's a little dusty right there. One top panel. That all those fingerprints are from me. Even though I just cleaned it. This is kind of why. Okay, I'll be honest. Cleaning the outside of the case should be done last. I know that it makes you feel a little better, but it just kind of screwed me over because now I gotta re-clean it. Oh well. More fun. It's actually not too dirty. It's just a bunch of loose dust, so it's not going to be too bad to clean up. The corrosion, I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to clean that off without chemicals, and I don't want to attack this thing with chemicals yet. So, set it with some glass cleaner and get this thing cleaned up. And I'm not going to reassemble this thing until it completely dries, because I really don't want any lingering moisture to damage any component. Man, that is flimsy right there. Yeah, that's dirty. And lots of sharp edges. Take out these metal blockout plates for the expansion bays. For the three of them. Dummy. I should have known that there wasn't three, because that very bottom one, even from the outside, looked a little skinny. To have been a 5 1/4, because 5 1/4 bays are pretty tall. I kind of wonder if I could put another motherboard in here, like make it a sleep. Well, no, I'd have to do a lot of modifications in this case to get any form of modern part in here. especially power supply. And that's not something I really want to tackle, because this is shockingly the only Gateway2000 that I have. Even though I do tinker and restore old PCs, minus the retrobrite part. I don't really retrobrite because I just haven't had a chance to. I mean, guys like 8-Bit Guy and LGR and them, they're really good at retrobrite. Well, I think LGR is. He mentions he's done it a few times, but he's never. I don't think I've seen him do it on his channel yet, which is fine. Okay, there we go. That case is looking a lot better. So this is going to let it completely dry. I'm going to do something about this. It's an odd spot for corrosion. Yeah, and that IO shield doesn't even come out and remove, so I couldn't make this a sleeper even if I wanted to. Which is a bummer, but at the same time, I don't know. I like this the way it's going to be. It's not going to be a gaming PC by any stretch of the imagination, but I do want to get it working again. Okay, so I'm going to call it good there. I am going to tackle this corrosion a little bit. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I might take some CLR and a stiff brush and just scrub it a little bit. Maybe. But until then, this bad boy is done. The case is clean. Next is to clean the motherboard and go from